What's up, family? I'd like to welcome you out to the first installment of Why Black Women Are Dating Other Races. Now, before I get into it, I want to explain my attire. Because I'm going to take some serious shots, per se, at us as black men, I feel that it's very important for me to present myself in attire that represents a strong black man, and not to say that this is the only attire, but to carry myself in a responsible manner for those who may not recognize what we look like, may forget what we look like, based on all the reasons that I provide of why black women are dating other races. So I hope that makes sense, and that will be the reason why you will see me dressed accordingly during this series in particular. So with that said, let's get to it. Now, in all honesty, before I begin, there were a plethora of reasons that I came up with, and the funny thing is that ultimately, all the reasons, for the most part, surrounded the first reason I'm actually going to elaborate on in this episode, and every reason therefore after can be, kind of like a subcategory to this main reason. But there are many other reasons outside of this one, but they all do kind of relate to this. So with that said, here is the first reason why black women are dating outside of their race. Stability. Black women, for the most part, are very frustrated with the black man's ability to remain stable or to be stable. Now, to understand why this is important and a frustration to many black women, you have to understand what a woman truly desires in life. Now, I have 4 things that I believe they desire. I can't say that they're all accurate, but I think for the most part, they pretty much, describe the vast majority of women. I believe the 4 things that a woman most desires to experience in life is, number 1, to experience true love. Number 2, to be a good wife. Number 3, to be a fantastic mother. And number 4, to experience both financial and emotional stability. The last one is extremely important, and it's not any more important than the previous 3 that I mentioned. However, it is important because this is one of the main areas that a lot of black men are lacking in. Now, in this series, I'm sure I don't have to say all, because I'm sure that we all recognize that there are black men out there that are stable and are providing both emotionally and financially for their families. But let's look into the financial aspect of things. Now, what you have to understand to accept reason number 1 is that what a woman is ultimately searching for in many ways, and of course not all women, is a protector. During a woman's life, you have to understand that a woman feels and experiences many fears. Fears of judgment, fears of betrayal, fears of being alone, but more importantly, fear of being abused. And a woman relies on a man to be that protector. Now, the protector she's relying on, of course, covers her in the way of physical protection, but in the capitalist society that we live in today, the most important area that a woman now looks and needs protection is financially. Now, one of the last times I checked, and this was recently, I believe the unemployment rate for black males is 9.7%. I think it was something like that, which is the highest it's been in quite a long time. Now, for anyone with common sense, we do know that a lot of unemployed black males has to do with racial issues. Now, in addition to racial issues, there is also the economic factor of where the economy is and the opportunities that are actually available. But when we speak about the racial issues of black men being unemployed, we speak of what we're actually speaking of is not being the first in line to accept a job. The need for affirmative action, which I don't know if I agree with or disagree with, but I understand its place, and I do believe that in this society is without question a necessary evil at times. But that's neither here nor there. That's a different subject. So what does all that mean? What that means is that, in all honesty, there is a majority, and I don't know if it's a majority, but there is a large base of black men who do not have 401ks, who are not living their lives in essence to prepare for the future. It seems that, and I myself have been guilty of this at times, that many black men have the disease of today, the disease of now. and live more for the moment rather than for tomorrow. I can't express why that is. I don't know if it's the frustrations that we feel that we go through in society, but I do know that is a reality for a lot of black men. Again, not all, but I would say a lot, you know. And even if it is the minority and it's not the majority, the reality of what black women are facing is that they are running into the minority of men. And ultimately, outside of the physical pleasures we may provide them or the natural connection of being the same race, what we're lacking in providing them is a future. Unfortunately, based on all the things that have gone on in our past, we have in many ways not recognized the importance of what long-term goals are. Many young black men today are focused on today. They're focused on, being a rapper, being all these things that don't really come with good insurance benefits, that don't come with planning for the future, that don't come with a savings plan. There is a vast majority of black men that do not understand the stock market, that do not understand the need and necessity of investments, of having investors, of having financial planners. And all that comes back to being unstable and not being able to provide that financial stability that a woman does rely on in a man, right, wrong, or indifferently, in her decision-making process of happiness, in her decision-making process of having a life with a person. Now, I think the sad thing, in my opinion, is that when a woman has to evaluate all the different races and cultures of men, when she ranks them in order of stability, if we are not at the bottom of the list, most likely we're not too far from it. And that is a major reason why black women are starting to open up to the idea of dating outside of their race. And more so than ever today, are you seeing more black women venturing out and going against what internally they probably do not want to do. Now, of course, you do have that faction of black women who are attracted to the Brad Pitts of the world, and, to each his own, you like what you like. But the one thing I can say to you that I personally believe, right, wrong, or indifferently, is that some of the black women that are actually dating outside of their race would trade in their interracial relationship for an in-house relationship, so to speak, with a stable, good black man. But because there is such a struggle in finding one, whether they're going to conventions or wherever they're looking to choose, ultimately they're not running into us as much as they would like to. So now to wrap this up, the number one reason, in my opinion, why black women are beginning to date outside their race is stability. As black men, we have to do a better job of living for tomorrow as opposed to living for today. Because today only matters while it counts. And while tomorrow isn't guaranteed, while tomorrow isn't promised to anyone, ultimately, we have to live as if tomorrow is the reality. Because tomorrow is as much as a reality as the present now while I speak. And if I don't spend 99% of my energy preparing for a good tomorrow, preparing for a good day after, then ultimately today has been wasted. Okay, so as you can see, we're running out of time, so that brings part one to a close. So I just have two quick things I'd like to add. I have a pretty large disparity between my friends and my subscribers numbers. So anybody who is a subscriber that's not on my friends list, please send me a friend invite. That way I can add you and get those numbers a little bit more even. Secondly, I like to make sure that everybody reads the credits after this ends, because I've updated the instructions on what I would like to see in terms of video responses and comments. So now again, this brings part one to a close, and I look forward to seeing you guys again in part two. Two fingers.